Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel Plant Science. I'm really excited to start this journey with you. So if you're a student trying to understand plant biology, or you're just someone that is curious about plants and how they grow and how they function, then I believe that you are in the right place, because we are going to deal with all the topics that are related to plant biology, including the core biology topics as well, like biochemistry and molecular biology. But for now, we will start with a very interesting topic, that is bryophytes, the simplest land plants that you'll ever come across. Alright, so I welcome you to the very first episode of the series Journey Through Lower Plants, that is understanding bryophytes. Okay, so alright, let's start with the first question. What are bryophytes? So I'm pretty sure you have seen these plants, right? You have seen these guys before when you go out for a walk or even in your garden. I'm sure you have seen them. They are tiny and very simple plants, but trust me, they have a very cool life cycle. Okay, and one very interesting fact about them is that they are the earliest plants to colonize the land. Okay, so they are known to grow on rocks where other plants cannot grow, and over time they convert the rocks into soil. Alright, so what are exactly bryophytes? Bryophytes are tiny, green, non-vascular plants. So non-vascular plants, which means that complex tissues like xylem and phloem are absent. Okay, xylem and phloem in higher plants are known to transport water and mineral nutrients across the plants, right? These complex tissues are completely absent in bryophytes. Okay, they are known to grow in moist and shady places, like in the forest. You will find them growing on walls. You will find them growing on tree barks, as you can see here. You'll also find them even in your garden as well. And as mentioned, they do not have any complex tissues, and this is the reason why they are tiny, and they are known to live and grow close to ground or water in order for them to stay moist. Okay, which means that water is very important for them. They are land plants, but they require water for fertilization, and this is the reason why bryophytes are also regarded as the amphibians of the plant kingdom. And as you can see, they are divided into three groups. Okay, the first one is known as liverworts. The second one is known as hornwort, and the last one is known as mosses. Okay, we will discuss them in the next video. We'll see how they are classified into liverworts, hornworts, and mosses. Okay, now let's study the general characters of bryophytes. So the first point is the presence of distinct and well-defined heteromorphic alternations of generation. So the word hetero means different, and then morphic means morphology. So what you'll find is you'll find two different morphologies in the alternations of generation. Okay, so in order to understand this, we'll first study the concept of the alternations of generation. Okay, so in order to understand this, let's take the life cycle of plants in general. Okay, plant life consists of two stages, haploid and diploid stage. The haploid stage has one set of chromosomes, and then the diploid stage has two sets of chromosomes. The haploid stage is also called the gametophyte, and the diploid stage is known as the sporophyte. And in every plant, they alternate between these two stages. Okay, they alternate between these two stages. So what you will see is that the gametophyte will produce haploid gametes, and that is male gamete and the female gamete, and they will undergo fertilization and give rise to sporophyte, which is a diploid. Now the sporophyte will undergo meiosis to produce spores, and then those spores on germination will give rise to gametophyte. Okay, so the gametophyte will produce gametes, and then the sporophyte will produce spores, and then the spores on germination will give rise to gametophyte. So this is the general life cycle of plants. This might sound somewhat confusing or complicated, but I will take an example of higher plants, which will be somewhat easier for us to understand. So this is the life cycle of angiosperm. Okay, the plant that you see here, this is the sporophyte. Okay, so the sporophyte plant body includes the roots, the stem, flowers, leaves, everything. So everything that you see here, this is the sporophyte. And then in the sporophyte plant body, it has flowers. Okay, so the sporophyte is diploid, and in the flowers, spores are produced. Male spores and female spores are produced. Now male spores will give rise to male gametophyte, the female spores will give rise to female gametophyte, and then male gamete and female gametes are produced. Now the gametes will fuse together during fertilization and give rise to a zygote. By the way, the male gamete, these are haploids. Okay, this will undergo meiosis. To give rise to male gamete and female gametophyte. So the zygote that is produced after fertilization will have a diploid set of chromosomes. Now the zygote will undergo divisions to give rise to embryo, which is in the form of seeds, and then the embryo, during ideal conditions, it will give rise to sporophyte. So this is the life cycle of angiosperms. So as you can see, the entire plant that you see, this is the sporophyte, and the gametophyte stage is present only for a very short period of time. It's only okay, and this is the reason why the sporophyte is known as the dominant plant body, or it is also known as the main plant body. Okay, but in case of bryophytes, this is totally different, because the gametophyte plant body that you see here, this is the main plant body. Okay, it is also regarded as the dominant plant body because this is a longer leaf structure compared to sporophyte. Okay, so let's take an example of mosses that you see here. So if you zoom the structure, you'll find a structure something like this. Okay, so what happens is that the gametophyte will produce gametes, right? Male gamete and female gametes. Now, as you can see, this is this region here, this is the gametophyte, and the male gamete will be produced in this shorter branch, and then the female gamete will be produced in the longer branch. Now what happens is that during fertilization, in the presence of water, the male gametes will swim towards the female gamete and then fertilize the egg, and then that will lead to the production of the sporophyte plant body. So this is the sporophyte. Then the sporophyte will produce spores, right? And then the spores on germination will give rise to the gametophyte plant body. Okay, so when it comes to the life cycle of angiosperms, you find that the sporophyte plant body is present all throughout the year, and then the gametophyte stage is present only for a short period of time, right? So it's not very distinct. There's no distinction between the sporophyte plant body and then the gametophyte plant body. But in case of bryophytes, we find that there's a clear distinction between the gametophyte plant body and then the sporophyte plant body. Alright. Okay, let's get to the second point. The second point we have already discussed. The main plant body will always be represented by the gametophyte. Okay, the plant body will always be represented by gametophyte, and this gametophyte, depending upon the different types of bryophytes, they will either be thallus-like structure, they will grow in this manner, they will either be thallus-like structure, or if they are, or they might grow in this leaf-like structure. Okay, so depending upon different types of bryophytes, the plant body may be thallus-like structure. Okay, so if this is the soil, the plant body will grow in this direction. Okay, this is known as the prostrate direction, so the plant body will be more or less flat in structure. And then if the plant body is a leafy plant, then it will grow in this direction. Okay, erect form and this prostrate form. Okay, so the next point is roots. So the plant body, if it is in thallus form, it will consist of two surfaces. Okay, it will consist of two sides. The upper portion is known as the dorsal portion. See, the upper portion that is facing towards us is known as the dorsal, and then if you flip the plant, then you will get the ventral surface. Okay, you will get the ventral form here. So sorry, this is the dorsal side, and then this is the ventral side. Okay, so if you look at the ventral side, you find these structures, right? These structures, these hair-like structures, these are known as rhizoids. Okay, roots are totally absent in case of bryophytes, but root-like structures known as rhizoids are present in bryophytes. The rhizoids, in case of liverworts, they are unicellular, which means that they are single cell structure, and they can be of two types again. They can be of smooth wall rhizoids, or sometimes you will find that some rhizoids will have bag-like projections. Okay, these dot structures, and this type of rhizoids are known as tuberculate rhizoid. Alright, so this is how the rhizoid will look under the microscope. This is the smooth wall rhizoids, and this is the tuberculate rhizoids. Okay, but in case of mosses, the rhizoids will be somewhat different. Okay, you'll find that the rhizoids are multicellular, which and then along with that you'll also find cross wall projections here. Okay, you'll find that there will be cross wall sections in the rhizoids. Okay, so this is a very special characteristics of mosses, that the rhizoids are multicellular, and also along with that you'll find cross sections in the rhizoids. Okay, so rhizoids are present, roots are totally absent, but rhizoids are present, which functions just like roots. Okay, they will help the plant to anchor to the soil, and then they will also help in the absorption of water and minerals. Okay, and the next point is reproduction. Bryophytes are known to reproduce by two methods: vegetative method and sexual methods. In case of vegetative method, they will take place through fragmentation, through tuber formation, and then through gemma. Okay, so as you can see here in this structure, this is Markinsia. This region is known as this region that you see here This region is known as the apical region of the plant. Okay, so the plant body will grow in this direction. Okay, the plant will grow in this direction, and as the plant grows in this direction, this region here, the region here, this older part of the plant will start to decay. Okay, they will start to die and then decay, and over time all this plant body will be separated from one another, and each of these will give rise to a new plant body. Okay, so this is fragmentation. This is seen in rexia. So the apical portion will keep on growing, and as the plant body grows in size, the older portion will start to decay. Okay, it will start to decay, and then the fragments of it, each of the fragments will give rise to a new plant. Sometimes, in case of Anthoceros and some other bryophytes, during unfavorable conditions, like when there is insufficient water or insufficient nutrients, what will happen is that the plant body will start to produce these tube-like structures. Okay, these tubers, these are known as tubers, and then these tubers will contain sufficient amount of food, and then they will grow on the ground. Okay, and then over time this plant body will start to decay and then die off. And when there's favorable conditions, like when there's sufficient water for them to grow or nutrients for them to grow, each of these tubers that is formed will give rise to a new plant. Okay, and then in case of Merkensia, there's a special structure known as gamma cups. Okay, that you see here, these are known as gamma cups, and if you take a closer look, you will find that inside there are green structures, right? These are known as gemma. Okay, these are known as gemma, and then each of these gemma will give rise to a new Merkensia plant. Okay, so this is how bryophytes reproduce by vegetative method. Okay, so you find fragmentation, tuber formation, and then through gemma. And then the second type of reproduction is sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction in bryophytes is of oogamous type. Oogamous type is a heterogamous type of reproduction, which means that the male gamete and the female gamete are different in size and structure. Okay, it means that the male gamete is smaller in size, which is the sperm, and then the female gamete, that is the egg, is larger in size. Okay, the male gamete has flagella, which means that it is motile, and then the female gamete is immobile. Okay, it is unable to move. Now the male sex organ is known as antheridia in this, and then the female sex organ in bryophyte is known as archegonia. Okay, so the male gamete, the male sex organ is surrounded by a single layer of sterile cells. Okay, they are surrounded by a single layer, and inside this you'll find the anthracite mother cells. Okay, so you'll find the anthracite mother cells. In each of these anthracite mother cells will undergo one single division, one diagonal division, and then give rise, and each of these will give rise to sperm. Okay, in case of bryophytes, the sperm will have two flagella. So all the sperms in bryophytes will be biflagellated, which means that they will have two flagella always. Okay, and then the female sex organ is known as the archegonium or archegonia. So just like the male gamete, just like the male sex organ, the female sex organ will also be surrounded by sterile cells, and inside the sterile cells you will find the female gamete, that is the egg. Okay, and then you'll find the neck cells and the neck canal cells and then cover cells. Now in the presence of water, what will happen is that these cover cells will open up, and then the sperm will swim towards the egg and then fertilize it. Okay, so this antheridium and the archegonium, the female sex organ and the male sex organ, are embedded in the plant body. Okay, they will be present inside the, they will be embedded in the plant body. But in case of Mertensia, you'll find that there will be some special structures present on the plant body itself. So they will produce these special structures known as antiradiophore. They also produce a special structure known as archegoniophore. Okay, so the antiradiophore, if we take a DS section of it, then you'll find the structure something like this. If we take the DS of archegoniophore, you'll find a structure like this. Okay, and inside these structures you'll find the male sex organ, that is the archegonia, and inside these structures you'll find these structures, right? All these are archegonia. Okay, and this is anteridia, and then this is archegonia. So in case of some bryophytes, the male sex organ and the female sex organ will be embedded in the plant body itself, and then in some bryophytes like Mertensia, you'll have these special structures. Okay, and inside these special structures, the male sex organ and the female sex organ will be present. The next point is water is necessary for fertilization. We have done this, and then once the male gamete and the female gamete, so the male and female gamete will undergo fertilization, and this will give rise to a structure known as zygote. Okay, once zygote is formed, the zygote, there is no resting stage for the zygote. Okay, they will start to divide immediately. Okay, so once zygote is formed, they will divide immediately after fertilization. The zygote does not have any resting period and divides immediately after fertilization. And also one very important thing to remember is that the zygote, the first division in the zygote will always be a transverse division. Okay, the first division of the zygote is always a transverse. So this is also a special character of bryophytes. And then the zygote will continue to divide and then produce the embryo, and then the embryo will develop within the venter of the archegonium. Okay, and this will give rise to the sporophyte plant body. Okay, so the male gamete will swim towards the female gamete. They will undergo fertilization. After fertilization, sporophyte plant body will be produced. Okay, and in the sporophyte plant body, capsules are present. These capsules will contain spores, and then the spores will be released out into the environment, and each of these spores on germination will give rise to the gametophyte, and then the gametophyte will produce again the female and male gametes, and then the cycle will go on and on and on and on. Okay, so these are some of the characters of bryophytes, and in the next video we will discuss on the general we'll classify the bryophytes. Okay, so the next video will be based on the classification of bryophytes. Okay, we'll have a detailed discussion on this. So if you have enjoyed the video, then I request you to please like and share it with your friends. Okay, and if you feel like this video series is going to help you, or if you're a student pursuing your bachelor's or a master's degree in botany, then I hope that this video series will help you. So I request you to please subscribe to my channel. Okay, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.